Hello, gorgeous human beings of the We Are Alpha Femme membership. I am very happy to be here with you today. Let me see who is live on camera. Valérie is here. Marjorie is here. Christelle, Jennifer, Beate, hello. Nicole, Suppy, Kim, Lorianne, Amber, Zoom. Hello, Jen, Melissa, Sarah, Alina, Jen, Rita, Dahlia, Lara, Dr. Izzy in the house, Aline, Genevieve, Carolina. So good to see you, Christabel. Hello, hello. And so many of you not on camera and others joining directly in the Facebook group. Thank you for being here. Let's see what the comment section is saying. Hello, hello. Hi, Anna, Abby. Hello, Roslyn. Hi, Kimberly. Tuning in fresh from the shower. So good. Hi, hi, hi. Carlene is here. Hi, from Sydney. Great to be here, Jen. That's awesome. First live. Amber, welcome. Hi. Hi, Jessie Ann, Alexandra. So good to see you all. Okay. So let's get started. Today is going to be one of those conversations that has multiple layers. It's going to be like partly empowering, partly triggering. And I feel like it's always nice to preface the discussion with that when I know it's going to happen. And the reason I like to have these kinds of discussions is because I feel what is missing the most for us to really go to the next level is to have really mature conversations with people who've done this, who are not just talking about the dream and how good it feels to achieve your dreams, but that also talk about some of the most difficult parts and some of the parts that we sometimes basically fully sabotage what we're doing because we don't want to feel the thing that we're feeling. And that's a real truth when it comes to this level of growth. And so I know that for myself, I am the only person that I personally know that has created this amount of wealth from nothing. Like, I'm the only one I know. And so I know that every step along the way, it has always been that I didn't really know anyone that could tell me what was coming. Not self-made this way. I could have spoken to somebody who had a huge team and loads of connections and ways to know all the things, but it wouldn't have been a very close experience to what I was having. It was a very different experience. And so I really feel what I can bring to you is valuable because I know there is not a lot of people like me right now, but I also know that can change massively if we have these conversations. A lot of what I'm talking to you about is stuff that I had to learn on the fly while I was figuring stuff out. And I really wish I would have had a heads up. And I really wish I'd have been able to have discussions with people that had succeeded before me. I think that would have been really valuable knowledge. It would have been very good for me to know. So why is this masterclass called responsibility? Because it's not just about being responsible. It's the fact that we comprehend that we are able to respond. And that is something that for the longest time, I didn't know how to be with. I didn't know how to be with the fact that I was very able, I was capable of responding at a higher level than maybe what I would prefer to do. So, question for the group here. Have you ever had someone massively bug you or massively trigger you or say something extremely rude or say something really just not cool, and your reaction and your response to that after you said it, you were like, oh, that is not how I should have handled that. But it was too late. You'd already said it. You'd already done it. The cat was out of the bag and there was no putting it back in the bag. And you're just like, oh my God. And so if this has happened, and I'm seeing a lot of like, yes, 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 this weekend, yes, to my husband, yes, 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 yep, 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 me, yes, of course, yes, yes, yes. So the next part of this is if after you said the thing and it came out of your mouth and you were like, I should not, why did I say that? If on top of that, the person that was saying the rude thing actually felt super self-righteous about everything they had said because of the way you responded. And you actually realized in that moment that you had lost your power even more than if you had said absolutely nothing. If you actually had that experience of like, I made it worse by even speaking because now the person who was so rude actually feels right in what they were saying. Like I literally made them right in the way that I responded. If that has ever happened, say yes or raise your hand. I think that's probably the most infuriating part of those moments. Someone says something so rude, you feel super self-righteous in your response because they deserve it. But then as it exits your mouth, you're like, no, but it's too late. It's already coming out. And the person who triggered you into saying it gets the satisfaction of going, my point is made. See, can't handle yourself. And you're just like, why? So why is it so important to have discussions like this? It's like, this happens to us. We have people that say things. It triggers us. It makes us feel not good. It makes us feel angry. And in that moment, it feels like we have to say something. Even though we don't have to say something, it feels like we should, or else we're being trampled all over, or else our side of the story isn't being heard, or else they might think this or that, or else they might, whatever it is. And so one of my biggest breakthroughs throughout my journey has been the understanding that it doesn't matter what it looks like. What matters is what it is. And so in different trainings, you may have heard me say the strongest frequency on earth is the frequency of truth. What that really means is it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what they say. What matters is what it is. And when you are able to cultivate the inner confidence to not need it to look right, but just trusting that if it is right, all will be right, something kind of spectacular starts to happen. So I'll give you an example. You have an ex-partner, you guys break up, ex-partner starts saying things about you that are not quite accurate. And they're borderlining on the line of you're a little bit nuts. And then you lose it because that person had no right to say what they were saying. And in that moment, they managed to grab you in the anger of the peak of your anger. And then they get to say, see, this is what I mean. This is the kind of crazy that you are, that I'm very entitled to tell everyone that you are. In that moment where you're so mad that you feel like you've got to say, it's not true. It's not true that I did that. It's because you're afraid of how it looks. You're afraid that other people will believe it. You're afraid that other people will say, well, what do you have to say about this? What do you have to say for yourself? And so what we've got to remember is that the fact that we are able to respond is enough. We don't always need to prove it. And one of the most powerful things I've ever done for myself, and my most powerful exercises that I do, is I contemplate everything I wish I could say before I say anything. I let myself imagine that I could say anything. I let myself imagine anything I could say. And then I pick my favorite, or I realize that nothing needs to be said. Our biggest issue is we say the first thing that comes to our mind because we say, well, I've got to protect myself. I've got to answer this. I'll look guilty if I don't say anything fast. I'll look like it's true if I don't do things right away. I'll look like it. Doesn't matter what it looks like. What matters is what it is. And if you are able to find a way to accurately represent what it is in the energy you desire to represent it, then you will find that through talking it out, trying a bunch of different ways, rewriting it, re-saying it, recording yourself, listening to yourself saying it, checking if there's a chip on your shoulder, rewriting your words, rereading your words, checking until you find something that's like, this is the accurate representation of what I want to say. Or you'll have said everything and you'll be like, you know what? No matter what I say, this will be spun against me. It doesn't matter. I will never manage to make this look the way it is. It's been spun too far out of perspective. There's just no way. And then you make peace that God, Mother Nature, the universe are watching, and you don't always need to tell people exactly what happened. Whoever, where it matters, knows what happened. You make peace with that. So our responsibility is our ability to respond. And sometimes your ability to respond is to say nothing. And it's to really breathe and to say, how do I respond to this? Is I have to respond to my nervous system, to my anger, to my fear, to my feeling of injustice, the 5-year-old inside of me that's freaking out. That's the person I'm responding to, not to the perpetrator, the person who's trying to make me look like a villain, not to the person who's saying this about me or doing that. That I don't need to respond to them. I need to respond to the situation. I need to respond to this inner child, the triggered person inside of me, the one of me, the person inside of me that's freaking out. That's who I need to respond to. You'll recognize that a lot of people will really believe that the key to their own safety is to respond to someone else properly or to make it look right. And that's never the case. The key to your own safety is to bring yourself back to neutral and to be able to feel calm and powerful. And that very rarely happens after you've said something without thinking. Usually that's like you've just started a ping pong match with a fireball. It's not the end, it's the beginning. Gloves off, game on. This is the beginning of the problem, not the end. So we've got to decide what we're prioritizing when we're saying, I take responsibility. I take responsibility for the outcome of this. Means I am able to respond to this in a way where I navigate the outcome. And we don't really believe that we have the power to do that until the day that we understand that we do. What this means is I feel I need to change what you said. I need you to apologize. I need you to change your mind. I need you to change what you said. I need you to change I need you to change in order for me to have controlled the outcome. Instead of saying, I'm responsible for how I feel about this. I'm responsible for how much this scars me. I'm responsible for my reaction to this. I'm responsible for so many things about this. Let me take a minute, because I'm definitely not making a long-term responsible decision on the fly in ping pong response. Your ability to respond, your responsibility, is actually a gift you give yourself where you say, I am capable of dealing with this. Not I had to say it. I had to. You don't understand. They had just said, do you know what they had just said about me? Do you know what they had said? I had to say something. No one can make you have to say anything. No one can make you have to do anything. It's always in your ability to respond to the situation. One of the top ways that people feel stressed in this world, and I think one of the bad habits we have as human beings, is we always feel like we need to answer fast in order to be valid or justified. We need to answer fast, because if we need to think about it, there's something about that. There's something wrong about that. And so it's always about the quick quip. How fast can I say this? How fast can I get myself out of trouble? How fast can I get this anger out of my body and say something out so I don't have to keep it in? How fast can I cut you off, decide I'm not your friend anymore, block you, remove you, stop? How fast can I do that instead of let me internalize this and see what the response is that I actually feel in alignment to have? What is my ability to respond? Now, the reason this is so important is because to the level that you're able to hold the pressure in your body without taking it out is how much power you're able to hold as a person. And this breakthrough really changed my life. So the first time I ever experienced this, for those of you who know my story a little bit, I had this really unfortunate phase of my life where I kind of sabotaged my life in a pretty heavy way. And I ended up living in the front seat of my car in the middle of the winter, and I broke every relationship that ever mattered. I went bankrupt. I lost everything. I'm sleeping in the front seat of this car, and the whole thing's a freaking nightmare. And I have no money at all. And so I can't buy alcohol to numb. I can't get myself a glass of wine and turn on the television and change the channel. I can't call a friend to gossip. I've shut everybody out, and I'm just alone with my thoughts. This means there was nowhere for me to put the pain. That changed my life because I realized how quickly I would always find a place to put the pain. You put it in a fight with somebody, you'll pick a fight with someone that the fight's not even about, just to change the energy. Pour yourself a big glass of wine, go watch TV, go watch something stupid to take your mind off stuff, anything to numb the feeling that you're feeling. And this is what most people will do in the world. Most people in the world, when they feel things they don't want to feel, they will numb it with whatever vice, drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, fighting, you name it. They will put something in the way of the feeling that's there. In order to create more power, scrolling on social media, picking fights with strangers on social media, anything but to feel what we're feeling, right? So what starts to happen when you look at a person that has a lot of power, they come to a junction in their lives where they either surpass that very strong need to numb and become even greater, or whether they succumb to that need of being numb and they start going down the downwards path. We'll see this a lot in movies that are biographies of big artists, where there's an opportunity for them to rise or to fall, and it's like, that's where the drugs came in. That's where they started cheating on their spouse. That's where the fights started happening. This is where they started going to jail. This is where it all went sour, is that one moment where there was a huge test, like, can you hold this void or do you numb it? And the numbing became way too easy. And then the numbing was just a way of doing it. And they fell into the trap. You're tested in your life often to see if you're going to be the kind of person that numbs or whether you're the kind of person who can hold the void. And you're still in your testing phase if you still have a dream. As long as you have a dream, you're being tested, because once you've numbed enough, there's nothing left to dream about. Even your dreams are numb. So as long as you have a dream, you're still being tested. That doesn't mean you're not also numbing. You might still say things like, today was awful, pour me a glass of wine, turn on the television. I don't want to think about anything. Everybody just shut up. I've had enough of today. You might have days like that still, but you haven't numbed yourself entirely to the point where you're addicted to the numbness more than you are driven by the dream. So what does responsibility look like is the amount of tension a person can hold in their body without numbing it. That's the level of responsibility you're able to hold. And there are different things in your life that cause this tension. There are interpersonal relationship tension, marriage tension, health tension, aging parents tension, the world tension. There's the tension of the old friend that doesn't like what you're doing, social media tension, people's opinion, political tension, religious tension, war. There's everything that's causing the tension in your body. Everything can be pulling at your life. This isn't even starting with your dreams, your desire to be successful, your legacy, your life on this planet that's going by one day at a time. Like, there's a lot of things that create tension in your life. And your ability to normalize this tension in your body, to process it, to be at peace with it, to still feel safe, even though there is tension, this helps you kind of figure out how much responsibility you're able to hold, how much you are able to respond in your power when life dishes you something that you would just as easily numb if you could. Because that will really be the line. Do you remain able to respond? Or do you give up the ability to respond in order to numb? It's like you give it up. You look at artists like Elvis. You look at artists like Johnny Cash. You look at Amy Winehouse. You look at Whitney Houston. People who had, oh my gosh, power in the palm of their hands. They could have written music about anything. They could have performed about anything. They had people watching everywhere, but the responsibility was just too much. And so they chose to numb it, and then they could never get the power back. And so it is a lot of pressure, but these are like the whole world knows your name kind of pressure. That's intense pressure. And not everyone is built for that. And that's not everybody's dream. Like if you are in here and you already know that that's not your vibe, you're not looking to be Whitney Houston famous, you're not looking to be Elvis famous. If you know that, that is not what you want. Raise your hand if that's not what you want. Say, no, I don't want to be that big. Okay, perfect. Okay, you can put your hand down. Now, if you're like, you know what, actually, maybe. I know it's nuts, but I think the whole world's supposed to know my name somehow. I just feel it. If that's more the truth, raise your hand. So there's some of you that still are in for that. So what's the first level of awareness is the fact that like you might know, I want to be empowered. I want to be able to help my community, or I want to be able to help a part of the world, or I want a company that really makes an impact, but I don't want to be that big. And some people say, no, I actually want to learn to be that big and I don't know what it takes. And I'm really grateful that I can learn from certain people because like, I don't know, I need to figure out what I'm capable of and how to grow the power. So the first level is to have the awareness of how much responsibility you're going to need to have to hold in your life. But the truth is, being a parent requires a level of responsibility that some people are not even willing to cultivate. Have you ever seen a parent that is not willing to be responsible for their kids and you think you're not doing the thing you need to do for these kids to grow up properly? It's not that you're a bad parent, it's that you're not a responsible parent. You're not owning this like you are able to respond accurately. You've like forgotten how to do this. You've forgotten your power somehow. Ever seen a parent do that? Raise your hand if you've ever seen that. So this is not just for big dreams. This is also for like important life things. Same thing in marriages. Have you ever heard either on TV, in a movie, or in real life, someone say, yes, I was unfaithful, but what you have to understand is that I really wasn't feeling seen or validated in my marriage and it wasn't my fault. Your ability to respond was there, but you numbed it with sex. That's what happened. Because you had an ability to respond in your marriage, but you didn't know how to do it in that moment. And so you numbed it. We numb anywhere where we don't want to be feeling what we're feeling. But the thing is, our feelings go everywhere with us until the day our feelings go nowhere with us anymore because we've numbed them all. So you are either going to do your life with all of your feelings, or there will be a day somewhere along the way that you cut them off. I hope that day never comes for you. I hope you're able to walk with your feelings forever, because that is really what's going to take us to the enlightenment I think we're looking for on the planet, is people who hold on to their ability to respond and take their spirit, their soul, their awakenedness, their consciousness seriously enough to say, I will never be able to shut this part of me down. There won't be a day where I just say, sorry, don't know what happened. I just kind of numbed it. I lost it. I just lost it. I gave up. I quit. I numbed it. You're able to respond and you honor that capacity that you have inside of you, and you're constantly stretching that power. So there's things that are going to happen along the way that are going to test you, right? So for those of you who've been doing work with me recently, leaders are bridges and bridges are tested. Responsibility is your ability to respond when the bridge is tested. So some people will say, well, it wasn't my fault. My bridge was tested and so it broke. And other people will say, so the bridge was tested and had I not responded the way I did, it would have broke. But it didn't, because I responded this way and I saved the day. It really is a moment where you can decide to give the power away, or you can hold the power and you can decide that you're the one. Now, for those of you who have children, this is something that you'll often see when you say, you have a mature child or an immature child. It's usually one that's able to respond in a way that is mature versus the other one that doesn't want to hold their power. One gets in trouble, takes responsibility for what they did wrong, takes the punishment, learns from the punishment, and comes back wiser, stronger. The other one is mad at you for punishing them, tells you who was actually responsible for it, tells you how it wasn't their fault, does not accept the punishment, feels traumatized by the punishment, and reminds you of the punishment for the rest of their lives. You feel the energy of a person who can handle the responsibility of their actions and the person that cannot handle the responsibility of their actions. There is a difference between a romantic partner who blames you for everything that doesn't work versus a romantic partner that takes ownership for the things. You feel it in people everywhere in the world. And so what we really want to learn to do here is to become a lot more aware of our innate power that is ours, that we don't have to go get it or build it or cultivate it. We don't need to learn how to be powerful. That's a concept that I think really disempowers a lot of people and think like, well, look, right now I don't have power, but if I were to buy this course, I might become powerful. It's like, no, the courses don't help you become powerful. The courses help you achieve dreams far beyond your wildest imaginations. But your ability to be responsible, that is something that you were born with. And it's something you've got to choose. But you're going to have to figure out in your body how much tension you can hold. And there's no shame in this because there's different ways that you find out how much tension you can hold. And for a lot of us, and if you've ever had a difficult life, a difficult childhood, and you have any kind of trauma or post-traumatic stress around tension, it's going to be a lot harder for you to hold tension. But you have two choices. You either use the trauma as the reason that you cannot be a responsible adult, or you understand how difficult it is for you to hold tension and you go learn how to let it go with therapy, with breath work, facilitation, trauma healing, all the modalities that exist so that you can take ownership of your body again and hold heavy things. Because it really is impossible for you to have a long-term career, a long-term relationship, a long-term success of any kind if you cannot hold tension for as long as you desire to have the dream that you want. So if you think about it, the career lasts as long as the tension can be held. On the day where the tension breaks and you can't hold it, the career ends. The marriage lasts as long as you can hold the tension. And so you'll find that there's places in your life where it's non-negotiable that you can hold the tension. Who here has a child that is difficult to handle, where there's always been tension and there might always be tension? So you have made peace with the fact that there's tension with your child. You are not contemplating ending the relationship with your child. There's just going to be tension. There's always been tension. And you're trying to figure out how to handle that. There's just tension. You got to figure it out. Who here has tension in their marriage and it's getting a little bit kind of very heavy that there is tension in your marriage and you're like, oh my gosh. Now, when you have tension in your marriage, it's not the same as having tension with your child. There's a lot more questionings about how much more you can handle of that, how long you can hold this responsibility. Who here has tension in their job or in their career, with a client, with taxes, with money, with any kind of tension this way? And so it's even easier to leave a job or a career because it's like, I don't think I can hold this. I don't think it's just no point. And so you'll realize in your life that different levels of things, you're willing to let go of the tension a lot faster. You'll say it's just not worth it. And then there's other things that you're holding on so tight because you're like, I am not letting go of this. This is a tension I'm going to live with. And so you've got to figure out in your life where you're willing to rock the tension and say, I'm going to figure out how to handle this, and where you have boundaries and where you say, I'm not willing to handle this. And so you might have friendships where you say, in my friendships, I have very short boundaries. I don't believe there should be tension in friendships. If there's tension in friendships, they're just not the right friendships for me. I can understand a circumstantial tension. Something happened, a misunderstanding, we tidy it up. But if there's always a consistent tension, I'm out. I'm not in for relationships like that. But I have had a marriage like that for 10 years and I'm still not giving up. And I have had a relationship like that with my child for 40 years and I'm never giving up. And so it's not that you have to be able to hold the same amount of tension everywhere. It's just that you're going to be tested in different areas to see what's worth keeping and what's not. And your ability to hold discomfort, tension, pressure, fear, anger, all those feelings, that's really what's testing you when your bridge is being tested. It's a tension bridge. You're testing to see, can you actually hold this? Or do you snap? Because when people do snap, and I'm sure you've seen this before, the people who do snap, they always have a reason why they snapped. And it's usually because of what you did or someone else did. It was like, look, everybody has a limit and you did this. Everyone has a limit, but the government did this, my job did this, my partner did this, my kids did this, and so I snapped. I couldn't hold the tension. Now, as you advance in fulfillment and success, the wild thing about the world is the expectation of your ability to hold tension becomes really unreasonable. And what's acceptable for a normal human being is no longer acceptable for a person in a position of power or wealth, because they should know better. They're in the public eye, they're being seen, they should be more responsible. Is this correct or not? I don't know. Half of me says no one should be dehumanized that way. None of us are perfect. It's an unrealistic expectation. The other part of me says, if that many people are looking up to a person, they do have a higher responsibility in how they're proceeding, because if they normalize bad behavior, people can say, look, this person has so much influence and this is what they're promoting. I mean, that is influential. So this is now when we start to look at the difference between your influence, your impact and your influence on the planet, and your responsibility, your ability to respond. And so why it matters, the more you are influential, the more your need to be responsible increases, is because more people are watching to see what the standard of the world that's okay is. And so if you have a really cool person the whole world decides is cool, and that person starts to do heavy drugs in the public eye, that kind of gives a permission to a lot of people who are looking for what's socially acceptable that's not great for the world. When you see a teenager that a lot of other teenagers look up to, and all of a sudden she goes through a phase where she's over-sexualized and she's really promoting things that are not healthy for younger teenagers, that person gets vilified. But if she was just a normal 19-year-old, her mom would give her a talk and that'd be about it. But now it's different because all these young kids have been watching her since they're 11 or whatever, and now she's the representation for so many, and now the responsibility is huge. So what a lot of us don't consider when we want to be influential is the immediate level of responsibility that gets attached to being influential. And I have seen so many people sabotage their ability to be influential because they are not willing to be responsible. And those two things, if they don't go together, cannot happen. You can't be influential and not responsible, wanting a long-term career where you help people. The only people who can actually succeed, not caring about their influence on people and not wanting to be responsible, but want the whole world to know them and it actually works, are people who have more of an audience of the bad girl, bad boy audience, where people are like, they kind of like the bad girl, bad boy personality, where they like that they're sprinkling a little bit of sin everywhere they go, and they love that they're triggering people, and they love that they're disturbing, they love that they're bugging, they love that they're going against the law, they love that, and that's easier for them to then be disruptive in those moments. But when I'm working with people who are on the frequency of heart-centered entrepreneurship, wanting to make a difference on the planet, wanting to be really helpful for the world, you will often be stopped on your journey because the level of responsibility you're going to need to be able to hold in order for it to work is higher than what you're willing to see that you'll need to be able to hold. And so if you can make peace with it and say, look, I make peace with this because I actually believe it will make me a better person. And so I'm willing to walk with this and to figure out what's the world needing and what is my response to that. And I'm willing to put some space between my reaction and my response, because those things are different. How did you react and how did you respond? Those are always two different questions. If I'm having a hard day and someone wants to know how it went for me, if they ask me how I reacted, I'll tell them one thing. And if they ask me how I responded, I'll tell them another, because those things happened at two different times. One happened with a lot of work and the other one happened in a flash of a second. How you react and how you respond. So if you took a moment with yourself right now and really contemplated this thought, are you willing to be held responsible for all of your responses during your life? Like, are you actually willing to be held responsible for your responses, all of them, your marriage, your children, your work, social media, strangers, haters, all of it? Are you willing to be responsible for that? Is it an easy yes? Or does it come with a, yeah. It's not an easy decision, but once we know that's what it takes, we change. The thing that was difficult was that I didn't know it was going to be this hard. So I didn't know what I was agreeing to. And I almost quit a bunch of times. This is something people that followed me since the beginning would know. I had a few live streams in my career where I went live and I said, I am probably going to quit the industry. This is probably going to be my last ever program. I don't think I can do this anymore. And the amount of messages I got of like, please don't do that, made me reconsider. But had I wanted to quit just a little earlier before people would have had the connection to me to say, please don't, I might not have been here today. There were times where I thought, what the heck is the point of this? People are so mean. I don't think I can handle this. There were times where I was like, if one person says a bad thing about me, and I'm saying this good thing about me, and no one was there to see what really happened, who's going to believe me? And actually, the more successful I am, it feels the harder it is for people to want to believe me. So I used to think it would be easier the more successful I am, and somehow it feels harder. I don't want to do this anymore. I've been tested multiple times along the way. You will be tested. Leaders are bridges and bridges are tested. But the first thing that you've got to work on before it even starts in your career is in your own house, in your own body. Can I hold this fear? Can I hold this pain? Can I have a moment to process my reaction before my response, because my response matters? Can I take a breath? Is this moment of self-righteousness where I would be so allowed to lose it? Like, I have every human reason to lose it right now. But is this moment of self-righteousness worth compromising my leadership, my reputation, the trust people have in me? Like, can I hold this? Can I be responsible for this? And it is not easy. It's a lot easier in your mind than it is in the moment. And I wish people talked about this more, because I think a lot of us put success on a pedestal instead of seeing it for what it really is, which is an accomplishment. It's not a moment where all of a sudden you made it and you're safe and you're fine. It's a moment where you've conquered so much of yourself that you can pat yourself on the back, take a deep breath and say, I'm a freaking badass. I'm incredible. That's what success really is like, I can't believe I've made it this far. I said I wanted this and I passed every test on the way here. This is incredible. It's not this superficial, like, whoa, success. Not really. It's deeper than that. It's like I responded correctly to the things that could have very easily made me freak out. And I can tell you from the real bottom of my heart, the truth, there's been a few things that have happened in my career, and all of my career since 2017 were all in the public eye. So many things that happened where I had to take a moment and breathe and really figure out my feelings before I addressed the situation. And then I addressed the situation And the amount of influx of people I got saying, the way you handled that. I don't even know you. I just saw something was going on. I watched because, gossip is fun. And then I watched the way you handled it. And there was no question for me after that of what was right, because your response. And I thank the Lord, I thank Mother Nature, universe, whoever's in charge of the energetics of the world in that moment, that I was able to tap into something bigger than me in that moment and say, there's the reaction and there's the response. It's okay to be mad, but do I have the wherewithal to not be mad? I can feel mad, but then I be a leader. Then I be compassionate. Then I be strong and capable and kind. And I'm allowed to feel mad. There gets to be a space in between the reactions. Is this moment of self-righteousness worth compromising everything? No. And so this is difficult because a lot of people will ask me, and they have ever since I started talking about this concept, but what if I do lose it? Do I lose everything? But what if I do make a mistake? Can I go back? Like, is it always going to haunt me? What if I make a mistake? Is it bad forever? What if I've done this? What if? And this is what I want to tell you. In 2013, I was sleeping in the front seat of a Honda Civic, Googling how to make my ex-boyfriend cry. I made every single bad decision you could possibly dream of. I wasn't speaking to my parents. I wasn't speaking to my siblings. I wasn't speaking to my friends. I decided I was all by myself in this world, and I punished everybody for it. And today I'm here. So you can turn everything around. But the day you turn everything around is the day you've got to realize everything that hasn't worked was your responsibility. And that's a tough day. It's a day that comes with some shame and some guilt. And that's also something you've got to be responsible for. You can't turn it around until you're responsible for having driven it this far. And this was a big breakthrough for me. Unless I was responsible for all of it, I can't be responsible for any of it. If you're the reason I got here, how am I supposed to turn it around? How am I supposed to turn it around if you're the one who drove us here? If I drove us here, I can turn it around. If you drove us here, you have to turn it around. I drove me here. But it wasn't my fault. My co-pilot told me to turn right when I blah, 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 blah. Who was driving? Me. I drove us here. Oh, I can't handle myself that have driven me here. I don't deserve it. Whoa, 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 whoa. I drove me here. Here's what I learned. I learned that I want to look at the map and not just follow someone else blindly. I drove me here. What I learned is sometimes my intuition takes me the right place, and sometimes my intuition sends me the wrong place. And the one big difference is fear. There's a difference between I feel it and I fear it. Sometimes I think it's intuition and it's fear. Okay, I just learned that. Okay. You're going to learn lessons every step along the way. But if you need someone else to be responsible for the thing you learned, you didn't learn it. If you can't take ownership of it somehow and say, what did I learn in this? It doesn't mean there isn't a co-creation of problems in your life. It doesn't mean other people weren't also responsible, because you got to think about it. Everything is a co-creation, because someone else in conflict was also responsible for their part of the conflict. But that doesn't matter. In order to build what I built and to do what I do, I've had to come to the level of responsibility where even if someone gives me 100 reasons to lose my power, I don't use one of them. Even if people give me every opportunity and every reason where I could, and I have a lot of people who love me a lot, where if I wanted to feel validated and justified in a reaction, I could totally be really rude, and a bunch of people would be like, you were allowed. You've been under a lot of pressure. Like, this was a lot. I would have a lot of support. And I still don't do it. I still don't do the polarizing thing, even though I could. I still don't do the talking badly about a whole bunch of people or a whole bunch of things just to get a point, just to push, even though I could, but I don't, because I really believe that that is not taking responsibility for my opinion, what I think, what I've created, what I've attracted. And so all of my work has been, what have I learned? And I've increased my level of responsibility. And that has become, in turn, the thing that's the most scary about my growth. And so I'm going to give you a little special key here. There are times where you are going to fear growth and you won't be able to understand why. It'll feel like what you're afraid of is failure because that's what most people tell you you're afraid of. And then you'll think you're afraid of failure for so long until someone reads you something super empowering, like our fear is not that we are not capable, but in fact that we are capable beyond belief. You'll hear super empowering quotes that like, whoa, yes, that's what it is. I'm not just afraid that I'm going to fail. I'm afraid that I'm so powerful. And then you're going to think of that and you're going to think, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would I fear that I'm powerful? You fear your power. You're going to fear that you're powerful because on the day that you're powerful, you're held responsible. That's why we're afraid of our power. Because when you look, where is the power in the world? Who would you say are the most powerful people on the planet? Who are the people who are said, okay, that person is powerful? If you were to say name the 3 top most powerful people that come to your mind right now, who are they? Bill Gates, Oprah, Kim Kardashian. Who else comes to mind? Elon Musk. Who else? Taylor Swift. You might think of presidents. You might think of people high up in the religion, in like the Vatican, Joe Biden. You're thinking of people with power, Tony Robbins, people with power. Why are they powerful? The Pope, why are they powerful? Because they have the ability to make things happen. That's why they're powerful. They have the power to make things happen. If you have the power to make things happen and they happen, is it safe to say it was your responsibility that they happened? You're responsible for them happening. And that is what we are terrified of. We're not terrified of being powerful. We're terrified of being responsible for what the power is going to do. This is why it's so important being self-made as we are, because almost everyone in my community is self-made, that you understand your responsibility before you're ever given power. Because if you find out after, you've made more mistakes than you can ever repair. And people just don't even go back in. Like in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. It is that you will be held responsible for what you said. You will be held responsible for how you responded. You will be held responsible for whether you succeeded or failed. You'll be responsible for what you demonstrated and didn't demonstrate. And so your alignment to yourself has got to be squeaky clean. You've got to really know what you stand for. You've got to really know what you believe in. You've got to really spend time in conversation with yourself, contemplating what your stance is on certain things and why you feel what you feel and why you think what you think. You've got to have healthy discussions where people bring you to question the things you stand for, just to make sure you stand solid. You've got to be able to be in rooms where you learn invalidation and contrast. You've got to have experiences where you are dissatisfied and you watch yourself respond to your dissatisfaction. You've got to be in situations where you are vilified and see how you respond to that projection. You've got to be put in spaces where you're misunderstood and see how you respond to that experience before you're ever put in a position where your response to all of that in the public eye holds you responsible for something. You've got to be able to see how you respond to all of that. And for some of us, the first time it happens, we pull the plug and we say, no. I've ruined everything. People don't like me. I've messed it all up. It's too late. If I should have known. You're still responding as long as you have a dream. Only when you're so numb that you can't want for anything anymore is it too late. As long as you still have a dream, you are very much still in your response state. Now, this is an over-the-top conversation. What does this mean? Some of you might be like, Do I really need this? Yes. Maybe not today, but it'll hit you when you didn't think you needed it yet. That's the crazy thing. You'll need it faster than you thought. And if you have my voice in your mind on the day where that happens and you take a beat, you'll be so grateful. There are people that are held responsible for things they did 10, 20, 30 years ago, not even knowing it was a big deal. Things they said that resurface, Facebook statuses they posted 10 years ago before it mattered, and they're being held responsible for it because of who they are now. And they've got to deal with that and not be mad. What do you mean? It was 10 years ago. I didn't know. I take full responsibility for the fact that I decided to change my life without giving context for who I was before and the fact that you might find things about me before. I take full responsibility for the fact that I changed my life without being honest about who I was in the past, that when you find things now, they shock you. I take full responsibility for who I was before I knew, and that will never happen again. These are things people don't know how to say when they're triggered. It was 10 years ago. Who cares? That's the wrong response. That can be a reaction. You're allowed to have that reaction, but that can't be the response. It requires emotional and spiritual maturity to get to the point of understanding that your entire life matters. I'm going to tell you something that's going to give you like a perspective of what I realized this work really is about for me. I've realized for me, because I'm a mentor, I'm a coach, I'm a leader, I'm a philosopher, I'm a muse, I'm not just a businesswoman. I'm a businesswoman and a business plus. I don't just care about my business, I care about your business. It's a compounded thing that I'm doing. And what I had to make peace with, this is the level of responsibility that I feel I need to hold in order to feel strong and grounded enough to take me through the next level of my business. This is where I stand right now. I will probably never see the benefits fully of my work on this planet while I'm alive, because I will need to be proof of concept until I die through every single thing I go through before it can be fully said that I got it. Doesn't matter how much I've done already. Everything I do will be watched. And as a matter of fact, the more successful I am, the more everything I do will be watched. And until I've completed my life and it's over and people are still looking back at it, only when it is voted that yes, in fact, everything I said was in alignment with my entire life, then the real impact of my work will start happening on the planet. That's the kind of contract my soul has to sign if I'm going to make the type of decision or type of impact I actually want to make. And so how can I even be mad that not everybody gets me right now? 5 days before my 36th birthday, 36 years old. I think the whole world should think I've got it all figured out. I'm 36. 10 years ago, sleeping in the front seat of my car. You think that's enough proof of concept for the whole world to say, oh, yes, this person's a genius? No. There are the people that have the same idealistic mind as me that can see my growth and say, if she's done this in 10 years, I've got something to learn. If she's done this in 10 years, what will she do in the next 10? If she's done this in 10 years, yes, there'll be people who will say that, but there'll be way more people who say, do it for 20 and then we'll see. Do it for this and then we'll see. Do it through this and then we'll see. Let's watch you age on camera and see how comfortable you are after that. Let's watch you have a family. Let's watch you not have a family. Let's watch you not be able to do this. Let's watch you go through 25 years of marriage, see how you're doing after that. And they have the full right to say that. Because I will have to do all those things in order for my work to actually be valid at the level that I want it to. And so I'm nowhere near self-righteous in what I've built right now. I'm just grateful for what I've done and grateful that there are people ready enough to say, I value what you've done for how long you've done it. And I want to walk the next decade with you because I'm actually quite pleased with what you've done in the last 10 years. And so I'm willing to walk with you for a while and see what you do for the next little while. But if people question me, if people wonder, if people ask, and I get offended, then I've completely forgotten what the heck I'm doing. When's the last time you contemplated at this level for your own life? When the person doesn't buy your masterclass, and you get your knickers in a twist. When your 14-year-old doesn't think you're cool anymore and wants to second guess your life choices. When your partner isn't quite as lit up when you walk into a room and you feel self-righteous in your anger about that, even though there's been very little investment to make sure that didn't happen. Responsibility. I am who I am and I have what I have because of what I've been, what I've done, what I've said up until this point. And everything that happens from now will be all of that plus what I do next. And I take responsibility for all of it. Can you imagine, just for fun, what kind of life or what kind of possibility would exist on the planet if everyone saw their lives like this? Not that they were supposed to be successful by age 30, but that everything they did mattered by age 30. Not that they were supposed to have everything figured out by age 60, but that everything they had done had an impact by age 60. Not that they were supposed to be perfect until the day they died, but everything they did would count until the day they died. How would we live differently with that kind of responsibility? It matters. And how can I want to matter while at the same time not wanting what I do to matter? It's not my fault. Didn't do it on purpose. I wasn't thinking. I didn't think. Okay, it's not what I meant, obviously. Okay, I wasn't thinking of that when I said that. But yet I want you to believe and feel about me that I matter to you deeply. But unless I say something bad that hurts you, then you really are taking me way too seriously. I want to be the most important person in your life, except when I trip and say something really awful that you'll never forget. That I'd really need you to wipe because obviously I didn't mean that. I want the whole world to recognize that what I say matters, unless I made a mistake and said something I didn't mean, which I would like you all to forget immediately as though I'd never said it. Like, this is where it doesn't work. I either believe that everything I say matters, or I would prefer that nothing I say matters. I either have responsibility or I don't. I either have an ability to respond, which means I succeeded or failed at the way I responded, or none of it was my fault and I don't have that in the first place. But we have to be able to handle success and failure. And that's not an easy thing to do because it creates tension. And if we let go of the tension, can't handle it, tension bridge drops and falls. If you want to be able to help humanity move forward through your existence on this planet, you have to be able to hold tension, to apologize adequately. I realize the impact of what I just did, what that had on you. Our relationship matters to me so much. I know our relationship matters to you so much, and I cannot imagine how I would have felt if you would have said something like that to me. I am so incredibly sorry that I did not measure my words properly before I responded, because you did not deserve to ever hear those words come out of my mouth. Nothing I can say can take them back, but you have my word that I will be very careful with my words moving forward, because that is not what you deserve to hear from me to you. It is not a representation of how I feel about you. When's the last time you got an apology like that? Because people don't want to say sorry like that. They don't want to be responsible. Look, okay, I'm fine. I'm sorry. It's just next time you want to be rude, maybe you should consider that I've got a lot on my plate and it's not really my fault if I blow up. Okay, that's not what I meant. It's not what I wanted to say. Okay, I'm actually really sorry, but like, can we just turn the page? Do we really need to? How many times do I need to apologize? Those are more the apologies we get. The apology with the least amount of responsibility as possible. I'm sorry, but not I take full responsibility. Just let me tidy this up enough that it looks not what it's about, what it looks, not what it is. And we can tell that with people. You know, when someone did something for how it looks, but not what it is. It was swept under the bed. That's not responsibility. That's just moved out of the way. These conversations are so important because we have a lot of people in the world wanting to be leaders, And leaders have a lot of influence. And leaders are able to change the trajectory of many people's lives. Leaders are bridges, and bridges are tested. You want to be a leader? You're going to have moments in your life that really test you. And sometimes you're going to nail it, and sometimes you're not. How do you respond when you don't? It's so easy to blame other people when they have no responsibility. If you've ever in your life said, it's not my fault, it's because my parents were this way. The way I grew up, my siblings, they were very much this way with me. Now I'm like this. I've never had female friends. That's why I'm this way with women. I've never been in a healthy relationship. That's why I talk this way about men. I never had money. That's why I'm this way. I was brought up with people who only cared about money. That's why I'm this way. At what point were you able to defy the odds? Because if you were never able to defy the odds, you're still not able to. Or you were always able and you didn't, and you are still able, but you can. So then you've got to make peace with the feelings of guilt and shame of having come this far without having handled the thing. And that's what we don't want to do. And we numb that feeling. We numb the feeling that if we haven't done it, it's because of something we could have been responsible for, because we've wasted time and we've done this and we've done that. It's part of the journey. I think about all the time, if I could have just known what I knew at 25 at 15, what would have happened? If I wouldn't have needed that 10 years where I broke so many things. If I didn't need to do that, I would have had 10 extra years. And I have clients of mine that say, 10 years? If I would have known what you're telling me 50 years ago, if I would have known what you were telling me 40 years ago, you think 10 years is an issue? I would change my 10 years for my 40 years for your 10 years any day. Do you even realize? It's never too late. It's right this second, right now. And every single thing you've done has built you to the exact point where this information drops for you. I believe that. And there's more things that I don't see yet that'll drop for me down the line. Because if I thought I knew everything now, I'd just sell everything I have that's recorded and call it a day. But there's a new transmission that hits me every few days, every few weeks. There's something where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have this huge breakthrough that I didn't know last week. Now, even a decade into this work, a new way of saying it, a new way of thinking about it, something I can tell you that's like, okay, listen to this. And I know those will keep coming for me. And so I've got to make peace every day that I could have known better. Because I'm responsible. And the more influential you are, the more people you're responsible for. And this is why we've got to learn boundaries and standards along the way. Because people will feel that you are responsible for everything, including the world. You'll hear about Elon Musk. People will be like, Elon Musk could save world hunger. Can you imagine having that kind of responsibility? There's a section of the world that believes that if you gave up everything you ever built and gave it entirely to other people, that you could like save a part of the planet, and you're choosing not to. That kind of villain energy that people project onto you. How much tension you've got to hold to not experience yourself as a villain every day of your life to fulfill on the mission that you're here to do, because people don't know you. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what you're doing. They don't know what you're planning. They don't know what you've been through. They don't know anything. They just know what they think they would do if they had what you have, if it worked like it worked for you, which basically they know nothing. And this is going to be your experience for whatever it is. If I had her power, I would do this. If I had their money, I would do this. If I were known this way, I'd be talking about that. If people were watching my platform, I'd be talking about that. Yeah? Then do it. I'm trying, but people don't listen to me. I would, just people don't hire me. I would, but it's not my fault. People just don't choose me for some reason. It's nothing to do with me. If they were choosing me the way they're choosing her, I would do that. I would do something very different. This is a hard look at ourselves. People say this all the time. If I had a brand like Alpha Femme, what I would be doing right now is this. I'd be talking about this. I would not be talking about that. I would not be doing it like that. I would not be doing that. I would not be doing this. You should not be doing this. I would not do this. When I have that, I won't be doing that. And I'm like, well, do it. That's the whole reason we're all supposed to do it. So that it's our unique flavor. So we can be responsible for what we bring. You won't be liked by everyone. I'm not liked by everyone. That's not the point of this. The point is, can you fulfill on the mission your soul's calling you to fulfill on? And are you willing to be responsible for everything it takes for that to happen? Because on the day that it happens, you're going to be responsible for a lot more than you're responsible for now. You've got to practice being responsible way before other people's projections of what you're responsible for hit you. Because if you can't handle it now, when your parents tell you you're responsible for something, or your spouse tells you, or your kids tell you, if that's what makes you trigger central, numb it all down, what's the point? If it comes that fast, it's going to be one heck of a field day when people start telling you who you should be, how you should dress, what you should say, what you should not say, the music you should choose, the topics, the subjects, the way you said what you said, the choice of word, the angle, the sound, the tone, the inflation, the inflection. There will be a day where you're like, holy pickles, Harry Potter, this is a lot of you telling me what I should be doing. It's a lot. It's a lot of you being me in your mind. And me falling short and me having to take responsibility for all of it. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. But that's what power really is. Power is that you're able to hold yourself through all the things other people think you should have done instead. It's the tension. So you got to know yourself, and you've got to be able to handle the feeling. Because silence is a response. No is a response. Yes is a response. And yeah, but it's because is a response. It's all a response. What is your response to your life? And to the people who question it? And to the people who bring their opinion forward? Are you able to listen, to contemplate, say, let me sit with that? I've had people say things to me at early stages of my career where I felt I needed to answer right away. And I said, no, I don't think that's true. I think this is true. Now, when someone brings me something and it triggers me, I say, that is a very interesting perspective. Let me sit with that. I will never be forced into a rapid answer if I don't have it. I will never give an opinion on something I don't have an opinion on. I don't actually believe you need to have an opinion on everything. I think there's things you genuinely don't care about. I think there's things you're genuinely not knowledgeable enough to have an opinion on. But that comes with a lot of self-confidence to say, that's a really great question. I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to contemplate that for quite a while before I felt I was in a position to debate that with you. Yet we see that like weakness when we're not solid. I have to have an answer or else I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm talking about. But you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, but it'll look like I don't know what I'm talking about. Yes, but you don't know what you're talking about. Right. The strongest frequency on earth is the frequency of truth. I give you my opinion, but I don't know what I'm talking about is actually more powerful than, I would say blah, 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 blah. It's actually more powerful for you to say the real truth. Don't make it look anything. Just have it be what it is and see what happens. When you say, you know what? I'm actually really embarrassed to tell you I don't know the answer to that is more powerful than, well, I read one time, somebody once told me and I couldn't tell you who exactly, but I know for sure that something once I heard, I read, I know I said it was this. Well, I'm embarrassed to say I don't know the answer to that. And I don't want to tell you something that's wrong because I would hate for you to remember that and tell someone else later down the line, you know the answer and it's my mistake that you're repeating. So I'd rather say I don't know. I'll look into it though. I'll let you know. Can you be okay with the truth? You really hurt my feelings. I am so sorry to hear that. Instead of like, why? What did I say? I didn't say that though. That's not what I meant. So what I'm going to invite you to do until our next big discussion in this group is to just focus on your response when someone makes you responsible for something. And I know the first reaction is often, I shouldn't be responsible for this. But what if after today's discussion, the reaction was, what if I was responsible for this? What if I could handle being responsible for this? What if I was able to be responsible for this? How would I handle it then? If I were able to be responsible for this downfall, if I were able to be responsible for this mess, if I were able to be responsible for this fight, if I were able to be responsible for this mistake, then what would I do? What would that look like now? And see what you can come up with. I think you might be shocked. Use the space in the group to share with us stories like this. It can be the smallest thing, the tiniest little mistake that you realize, I realized I was able to respond to this and take responsibility for it. If I'm able to respond to this, if I'm able to be responsible for this without panicking, without freaking out, without thinking I've messed everything up and I'm unworthy of love and everybody's going to think I'm this or that, like, if I'm just able to be responsible for this, what happens? If I'm able to be responsible for my marriage, if I'm able to be responsible for my relationship with my teenager, if I'm able to be responsible for my financial situation, if I'm able to be responsible for my level of impact and influence on the planet, if I'm able to be responsible for the mistakes I've made, if I'm able to be responsible for the impact of my words when I'm angry, then what would I do? How would I respond to that in this moment if I could handle the tension of being responsible? What might happen instead? And share with us what comes through for you. The more you practice this, the more it will be rewarded by good things. This is where the universe, God, Mother Nature says, this person can handle it. Send her good stuff. Send her more stuff. She said she could handle it. She can. If I was able to respond to blame, if I was able to respond, if I was able to be responsible for the blame you put on me, you say, you said this, and I say, let me, on a live stream, this has happened to me before. I've had people say, in this live stream, you said this, and people wanting to hold me responsible for something I said in a live stream. I don't remember saying that. My reaction is, I never said that. That can't be my response. My response has to be, if I did say that, you have every right to feel the way you feel. I'm going to go watch right away, and then I'm going to make it right. And then if it turns out I'm right, I'll say, look, this is the segment. This is what it is. Watch it and then tell me how you feel, and we'll go from there. Or I watch it and they're right, and it's like, I rewatched myself and I can entirely see what you got from this. What would make this right for you? This is I take full responsibility. What would it look like if you could be responsible for everything? I'm responsible for my health. I'm responsible for my marriage. I'm responsible for my vision, my mission, my pain. I'm responsible for my everything. What would it look like? Not you're to blame, not you're at fault. This is not the same. What if I were able to be responsible tells you what can come next? If it was your fault, you've got to look in the past. How did I do it? How did I create it if it was my fault? That's not the question. How am I able to be responsible means, how does this change through my own doing? How am I able to turn this around? That's where the power lies, not in fault, in owning the ability to respond. If I'm responsible, I am able to respond. And that's usually what happens in chaos and problems, is no one is able to respond. Everyone's in freeze mode. No one knows what to do. Everyone's panicking. Everyone's in chaos. Everyone's trying to make what they did look better than it was. Everyone's trying to bury things they said or did. Or if one person felt able to respond in that moment, we would have a leader. And it's not the truth that you have to be able to respond to everything. Sometimes you say, I don't feel able to respond to this at the level that it's required of me right now. Let me contemplate this. I'll get back to you tomorrow. Give me a minute. I've got to think. I need to feel into this. There's just a lot of feelings on the table right now, and this matters. We matter to me. Let me figure this out. Give me a moment. My emotions are too high right now. I need to breathe, but I will get back to you. And I'm so sorry I don't have an answer for you quicker. Give me a moment. You're able to handle the tension. And if you can see this in your life play out in small things, you'll be able to hold it in the bigger things, and then the bigger things and the bigger things. And soon you'll feel like you can be responsible with a lot of money in your hands without feeling guilt. You'll feel like you can be responsible with a lot of power without feeling like you have to do what everybody wants you to do. You'll feel like you'll be able to be responsible with your magnetism, your sex appeal, your attraction without feeling like you need to hide under a rock. If you are able to respond, if you are able to be responsible, no one can control you anymore. You become the most powerful person in every room you walk in. And that is also a big responsibility. It's an endless loop that just makes you better. It takes a lot of emotional maturity, mental strength, and discussions like these to just remind you from time to time what you're capable of. But what I'm feeling universally as I look at this screen are people who are feeling stronger than when they got on, that are going to contemplate tonight. Whoa. Okay. I wasn't expecting that, but I like it. I didn't love it, but I like it. I'm going to think about this. There's something about this. Some of you are also like, I should make my husband watch this. Feel like people in my life need to watch this. It's normal. But as a collective with big goals, conversations like this help those goals happen a lot faster with a lot less conflict. Because if you're able to respond to conflict with the same level of responsibility you feel you could change the world, imagine what your family household would look like. You have it in you to do big things. You just have to decide it matters every time instead of picking and choosing. This matters, this doesn't. If it all matters, you expedite the process. You compound the process. And your bridge doesn't need to be tested so much. So take the time to experience this. If you have stuff that comes up for you, share it in the group, because Jacqueline will probably do some energy work to anchor this in for you in a few days if we can feel a pattern in what you need. It helps when you process in the group, because then we can customize what you're going through and we can anchor this in for you and get your power to feel even more solid, and we can drive the point home even more. So contemplate, journal, continue this discussion with yourself, with someone else. Don't put it down. It's easy to just go, yep, that was a great discussion. I'll pour me a glass of wine, turn on the television, let's pretend we never had it, because that was annoying. It's very easy to just turn the page and say, that was great. Next. But if you can sit with it and see how this applies to you just a little bit more, I think you'll be shocked what starts to happen in your life. I'm sending you so much love, so much power, and the ability to respond. And I shall see you on the internet.